Hello everyone, and welcome back. Tonight's story is 10 Strange Rules of My Night Security Guard Shift at the Motel. Extremely horrible creepypasta. Working night security might sound simple. Watching cameras, checking the halls, keeping things quiet. But at this motel, the rules are unlike anything you've ever heard, and breaking them means facing horrors you can't imagine. From guests who should not be disturbed to doors that must never be opened, this job quickly became the worst mistake of my life. If you enjoy these disturbing creepypastas, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? I always love seeing where everyone is tuning in. Now, let's begin. You think you're safe right now? Good. I used to think that too, before the rules took hold, before I learned that some places aren't just old or forgotten, they're waiting. And they have their own laws written in the dark. If you're watching this, if you felt that cold prickle of an unknown presence, that shadow at the edge of your vision, then maybe, just maybe, you'll understand. Or maybe you'll just be another one of them. Another soul swallowed by the silence. I remember finding the listing. Night security guard, the Midnight Inn, immediate start, excellent pay. It was tucked away, almost an afterthought. My life, at that point, felt like an afterthought. Eviction notice, ramen noodles, the kind of crushing desperation that makes you say yes to anything, no matter how strange. I was drowning. My old phone, cracked and barely holding a charge, was a fitting metaphor. Desperate times, they say, call for desperate measures. They don't tell you sometimes those measures call for your soul. If I'd had a better phone, I might have researched. But the universe has a way of herding you exactly where it wants you. The Midnight Inn wasn't on any main road. A forgotten relic, half swallowed by overgrown pines and a perpetual twilight clinging to its peeling facade, even in daylight. The sign, a faded monstrosity of warped plastic and flickering neon, still proudly declared, "Welcome," though the L had long gone out, leaving "we" come as a chilling, unintentional prophecy. The paint, once robin's egg blue, had curdled into a sickly gray-green, blistering and peeling like infected skin. I remember the air hitting me as I stepped out of my rusted-out Civic, thick, damp, carrying the faint, unsettling scent of stagnant water, old blood, and decaying leaves. A single, battered pickup, ancient and caked in rust, sat parked in the desolate lot. The only other vehicle was a sleek, black sedan, impossibly clean, no one around, just the motel looming. My interview was with Mr. Abernathy, the owner. Not what I expected. Unremarkable. A man-shaped shadow in a crisp suit, his face a pale, unlined mask. His eyes, though, were what struck me. The color of old ice, holding a depth like an abyss. He sat behind a polished mahogany desk in what passed for the lobby, a cavernous, dusty space with a grand but cracked chandelier. The air conditioning hummed, stirring dust motes in the weak sunlight. He didn't ask for a resume or references. He just watched me with those eyes. "You need this job, don't you, son?" His voice was a low murmur, dry as rustling leaves. I nodded, swallowing hard. "More than anything, sir." He leaned back, a faint smile touching his lips. "Good. Because this isn't just a job. It's a commitment. And it has rules." That's when he handed me the binder. Not a thick corporate manual, but a slim, leather-bound volume, like an ancient, forbidden text. The leather felt cold and dry, almost brittle. I flipped it open. The first page was stark, typed in an old-fashioned font, not employee handbook. Simply, the rules of the Midnight Inn night shift. "There are 10 of them," Mr. Abernathy said, his voice a low hum that seemed to vibrate in the lobby air. "Memorize them. Live by them. They are your shield, your salvation, your only hope of making it through the night." His eyes never left mine. A sliver of genuine unease snaked up my spine. This wasn't a standard security gig. This was something else. The air grew heavy, pressing down. I felt an inexplicable urge to bolt, to run as far as my sputtering car would take me. But the eviction notice, the hunger, chained me to that dusty chair. I started reading. Rule 1. At all times, remain in the lobby after 10 p.m. Do not, under any circumstances, venture into the guest wings or the basement. The doors will lock automatically, and they will not unlock for you. My brow furrowed. "So, I just stay here?" I gestured. "What if there's a problem? A fire? A guest emergency?" Mr. Abernathy's smile widened. "No problems in the guest wings. Not for you. Your duty is to the lobby and to yourself. The doors are for your protection. Guardians." He paused, icy eyes drilling into mine. "The guests are self-sufficient." His self-sufficient made my hair stand up. It sounded less like autonomy, more like something else. My gaze drifted to the corridor leading to the guest wings. A long, dark tunnel, receding into oppressive blackness despite the flickering light. An open maw. Rule 2. The telephone at the front desk is for incoming calls only. Do not attempt to make outgoing calls. If the phone rings between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., answer it, but do not speak. Listen. "Incoming calls only," I repeated. "Police. Ambulance." "No need," Mr. Abernathy said, firm, dismissive. "The police do not come to the Midnight Inn after dark. Emergencies you anticipate rarely occur here. As for calls between 1 and 3 a.m., they are important. A test or a reminder. Simply listen. They will hang up." A test? A reminder? My mind raced. This wasn't security. This felt like arcane ritual. What was on the other end? A pranking teenager? Or far worse, the heavy, old-fashioned rotary phone, black, lacquered like a beetle, sitting beneath the mounted deerhead's glassy stare, suddenly seemed sinister. I flipped the page, my heart a slow, heavy thrum. The air grew colder, despite the musty warmth. A faint scratching sound like fingernails on dry wood seemed to emanate from the empty room beyond the desk. I told myself it was the building settling, or mice. But the sound persisted, a faint, rhythmic tap, tap, tap. Rule 3. Never look directly into the mirrors after midnight, especially the large one in the lobby by the stairwell. Use your peripheral vision if you must, but never direct eye contact. This one sent a true chill down my spine. Mirrors? What could a mirror do? I glanced across the lobby to the ornate, gold-framed mirror leaning against the wall, reflecting the grand, decaying staircase. It was massive, taller than me, its glass slightly warped with age. In its reflection, the lobby seemed deeper, shadows longer, dust motes thicker. As I looked, I thought I saw a flicker, a distortion, like someone had walked past, just out of my direct line of sight. But no one was there. Only me. And Mr. Abernathy watching me, his pale face an unreadable mask. "The reflections can be distracting," he explained, softer now, almost a whisper. "What you see in them isn't always what's truly there. Or rather, it's what's also there, but prefers to remain unseen. It's a courtesy. For your own sanity. My own sanity." That phrase resonated. Not about safety. About my mind. The true horror wouldn't necessarily kill me, but unravel me, thread by thread, until nothing remained but a screaming, empty shell. That metallic smell in the air intensified. For a moment, I could taste it, like rust on my tongue. I felt a deep, primal urge to throw the binder down, turn tail, and flee. But the landlord's calls, the empty fridge, the shame, they held me fast. I was already trapped, long before I ever stepped foot in the Midnight Inn. The true cost of that desperation was beginning to reveal itself. He told me my shift started that very night. "You'll be alone," he said, "until 7 a.m. Just you, the rules, and the inn." He pushed a heavy, old-fashioned brass key across the desk. Not for a room, but for the front door, presumably. The kind of key that looked like it belonged to a forgotten tomb. The air was thick with the dust of ages, untold secrets, and pervasive dread that clung to the building's fabric. The dim lobby light seemed to flicker, and I could have sworn the shadows in the corners deepened, coalescing into forms not quite there, but felt as if they could be. My hand trembled as I reached for the key, sealing my fate with a silent, desperate promise. I would follow these rules, all of them, because the alternative, I suspected, was worse than anything I could possibly imagine. As the clock ticked closer to my first shift, a gnawing certainty settled in my gut. I was not just guarding a motel. I was guarding myself from something, and the inn, it seemed, was both my prison and my only sanctuary, for now. The first night was a slow, agonizing crawl into the abyss. Abernathy vanished, leaving me alone in the oppressive quiet. Disoriented dread settled. The lobby lights, dim and yellow, cast long, wavering shadows that danced with every rustle of the ancient building. The air grew colder as the sun dipped, painting the sky in bruised purples and blood oranges. I watched it go, feeling profound isolation. My uniform, provided by Abernathy, was stiff, gray, ill-fitting, smelling faintly of mothballs, something metallic and faintly sweet, like dried roses mixed with iron. It made my skin itch. I tried to focus, to be professional, to ignore the prickling unease. My shift began at 6 p.m., but the rules didn't truly take hold until 10 p.m. 4 hours to acclimatize. 4 hours to wander the dusty lobby, check the ancient ticking grandfather clock, its pendulum swinging with a relentless, mocking rhythm. 4 hours to feel the silence press in, broken only by creaking wood and faint whispers riding on stale air. I told myself it was wind, sighing through pines, but there was no wind. The silence itself felt like a presence, thick and heavy, waiting. Each tick of the clock reminded me of the creeping darkness. At precisely 10 p.m., a low thunk echoed through the building, resonating deep in my bones. I watched, mesmerized, as the heavy wooden doors leading to the guest wings, north wing and south wing, slowly, majestically swung shut. No visible mechanism, no sound of a latch clicking, just a soft, final clack as they met the frames. And then, profound, absolute silence from beyond those doors. It felt less like closure, more like a sealing. I instinctively reached for the handle of the north wing door. It was solid, unyielding, locked, just as the rules stated. A wave of fear, cold and sharp, washed over me. I was trapped. Yet, a strange sense of perverse relief also settled. If I couldn't go in, whatever was in there couldn't come out. Not to me, at least. Rule 1. At all times, remain in the lobby after 10 p.m. Understood. I was safe here, or so I desperately hoped. As the night wore on, the air grew heavy, almost viscous. The dim lobby light seemed to grow dimmer, shadows deepening until they felt less like empty spaces and more like solid presences. Every creak of the old building, every settling groan, made me jump. My skin prickled constantly. I found myself instinctively looking at the large mirror near the stairwell. It was a beautiful piece, ornate and antique, its gold frame tarnished with age. But Mr. Abernathy's words, "Never look directly into the mirrors after midnight," echoed in my head, a chilling mantra. The mirror felt like a black hole drawing my gaze. It was just after 11 p.m. when I heard it for the first time. A faint, dragging sound from the floor above, at the top of the grand staircase, reflected in the mirror. Scrape, drag, scrape, drag, like something heavy being pulled across old floorboards. My eyes darted to the mirror. Instinctively, I avoided direct eye contact, using my peripheral vision, as Abernathy had suggested. In the warped reflection, the top of the stairs was a swirl of darker shadows. For a fleeting second, I thought I saw it. A shape, not human. Too tall, too thin, a black void against the dim light, like a cutout in reality. It moved slowly, deliberately, at the landing's edge. My breath hitched. I squeezed my eyes shut, then forced them open, gaze fixed on the dusty counter. When I risked another peripheral glance, the shape was gone. The scraping sound stopped. The air felt colder, thick with tangible dread. My skin crawled. Rule 3. Never look directly into the mirrors after midnight. It wasn't midnight yet, but the warning was clear. What I had almost seen, I didn't want to see it fully. Not ever. The thought alone made my stomach clench. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. It hummed with unseen energy, waiting, watching. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. I kept my eyes focused on the binder, pretending to reread the rules. But my mind was screaming. This wasn't just a job. It was a test of endurance, a gauntlet of psychological torment. Every shadow seemed to stretch, to morph, to take on monstrous forms. I felt acutely, sickeningly watched. Then came Rule 2, the phone, the black rotary phone on the counter, sitting innocently beneath the glassy stare of the deer head. At 1:17 a.m., it rang. Not a pleasant, cheerful ring, but a low, resonant, almost guttural trill that seemed to vibrate through the very floorboards. I froze. My hand, despite my terror, reached out, guided by an instinct beyond my control. I picked it up. "Hello?" I whispered, forgetting the rule for a split second. Then I remembered. "Do not speak. Listen." I clamped my mouth shut, throat suddenly dry. What I heard on the other end, I'll never forget it. Not a voice, a cacophony, a chorus of whispers overlapping and indistinct, like 1,000 secrets breathed at once. But beneath the whispers, something else. A faint, wet, slithering sound, like something enormous dragging itself across a slick, uneven surface. And then, a sound that made my blood run cold. Soft, wet thuds, like heavy bags of meat hitting the ground, interspersed with muffled, wet sobbing. Not human sobbing. Something ancient and pained. It went on for what felt like an eternity, though probably only 30 seconds. The sounds intensified, grew closer, until it felt like whatever was making them was right there, just on the other side of the receiver, breathing into my ear, a hot, foul breath. Then, abruptly, the line went dead. I slowly, carefully, placed the receiver back in its cradle. My hand shook so violently, I almost dropped it. The metallic smell in the air was now overpowering, making my stomach churn. It smelled like a butcher shop after a long day, mixed with something sweet and sickly, like rotten flowers. I didn't move for a long time, my gaze fixed on the phone, as if it might ring again, or something might crawl out of its ancient speaker. But it remained silent, a black sentinel, a conduit to unimaginable horrors. I needed more rules, more answers, something to cling to, some framework to understand this madness. I flipped to the next page, fingers sticky with nervous sweat. Rule 4. Under no circumstances are you to acknowledge guests after 3 a.m. If a guest approaches the front desk, they are not truly there. Look at the ledger. They will leave. Do not look directly into their eyes. My eyes widened. Guests, I muttered aloud. I hadn't seen a single living soul since Abernathy left. The parking lot was empty, save for the old pickup and the black sedan. The guest wing doors were locked. But Abernathy had said, the guests are self-sufficient. Cold dread intensified. What kind of guests appeared after 3 a.m., weren't truly there and required me to ignore them? The thought made my skin prickle with fresh fear. Was this connected to the phone sounds? The wet sobbing? The implications were horrifying. Rule 5. If the lights in the lobby begin to flicker, do not look up. Close your eyes and count to 10, then open them. If the flickering persists, close your eyes again and count to 20. Repeat until they stabilize. Do not count above 60. My gaze immediately went to the few dim bulbs hanging from the high ceiling. They seemed to hum louder, their light less steady even now. What if they went out? What was I not supposed to see if they flickered? The rules weren't just about what to do, but what not to do, what not to see. They were a liturgy of avoidance, a ritual of ignorance designed to protect, or perhaps simply to delay, the inevitable. Each rule felt like a thread, weaving a net around me, pulling me deeper into the inn's terrifying purpose. The terror of that first night, the raw, visceral fear, was unlike anything I had ever known. It wasn't a fear of being attacked directly. It was a fear of the unknown, of the impossible, of the complete unraveling of my reality. The inn was alive, not with people, but with something else, something ancient, hungry, and utterly alien. I was trapped inside it, an unwilling participant in its nocturnal ballet of horrors. The thought of sunrise felt like an impossible dream, a faraway fantasy that might never arrive. I was alone, with only a cryptic binder of rules and the overwhelming presence of them, whatever they were. As the hours crawled by, marked by the relentless swing of the grandfather clock, I knew, with horrifying certainty, that this was only the beginning. My desperation had led me to a place where salvation wasn't a paycheck, but simply surviving until dawn. The following nights blurred into a terrifying routine, each a fresh assault on my sanity. The initial shock gave way to a pervasive, dull ache of fear, a constant companion that settled deep in my bones. I learned to anticipate the thunk of the guest wing doors at 10 p.m., the way silence would deepen almost visibly after they sealed shut. I learned to keep my eyes averted from the mirror, a silent prayer forming each time I passed it. The reflection seemed to pulse with a faint, internal light, drawing my gaze like morbid curiosity. And I learned the chilling ritual of the phone. The calls between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. became a nightly torment. Sounds varied, sometimes wet, slithering, and muffled sobbing. Other nights, high-pitched, almost mechanical grinding, like rusty gears turning in a deep, dark shaft. Once, I heard uncannily like a child's nursery rhyme, sung in a distorted, gravelly voice, interspersed with choking noises. The sounds were never quite the same, a macabre symphony of horror designed to wear me down. Each time I'd hold my breath, white-knuckled on the receiver, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs, until the line clicked dead. The metallic smell in the air always intensified during these calls, making me gag. It felt like the inn was breathing the same putrid air as me, exhaling its secrets directly into my ear. The most terrifying rule, the one that truly shattered the last vestiges of my disbelief, was Rule 4. I'd scoffed at it initially, thinking it absurd, but then came the night I saw them. It was 3:15 a.m. The lobby was bathed in sickly yellow light, the air thick and still. I was sitting rigidly behind the desk, clutching the binder, when I heard it. A faint scraping sound, closer this time, from the main entrance. The heavy wooden door, despite being bolted from the inside, slowly, silently, creaked open a fraction. A sliver of impenetrable darkness. Then a figure stepped in. It was tall, impossibly thin, draped in what looked like a tattered dark suit, or just shadows given form. Its head bowed, hidden by the brim of an old, wide-brimmed hat. It shuffled slowly, deliberately, towards the front desk. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a living person. No sound of footsteps, no rustle of fabric, just an unnatural, almost gliding movement. It felt like watching a projection, a living shadow. It emitted a profound sense of wrongness, an ancient, consuming despair. My hand flew to the ledger Mr. Abernathy had left, an enormous, leather-bound book, pages yellowed with age, filled with neat, looping cursive. I gripped it, knuckles white. My eyes were drawn to the figure, to the way shadows clung to it, making it seem both solid and utterly insubstantial. It was now directly in front of the counter. I could feel its presence, a profound cold that leached the warmth from my skin. It didn't speak. It just stood there, unmoving, its silence more menacing than any roar. My gaze flickered up, almost involuntarily. Do not look directly into their eyes. I forced my eyes down, fixed them on the open ledger. The names written there were old, some illegible, faded into the paper. As I stared, trying to focus, I became aware of a faint, almost inaudible hissing sound emanating from the thing in front of me. It wasn't aggressive, more like dry leaves dragged across stone. It smelled faintly of decay and stagnant water. I kept my head down, eyes glued to the ancient ink, heart a frantic drum. The cold intensified. I felt its gaze, icy needles piercing my soul, trying to pry my eyelids open. The air around me felt heavy, suffocating. Every instinct screamed to look up, to scream, to run. But the rules, my only shield, I repeated them like a mantra. They are not truly there. Look at the ledger. They will leave. After what felt like an eternity, the cold receded. The oppressive weight lifted. I risked a quick, peripheral glance. The figure was gone. The main door was closed, as if it had never opened. The lobby was silent once more, save for the persistent tick-tock of the grandfather clock. I slumped back in the chair, trembling, my entire body racked with deep, bone-aching exhaustion. I had survived. Just. But the experience left a permanent scar on my psyche. It was no longer a question of if things were here, but what they were and why. My reality had been irrevocably warped. The lights. Rule 5. That one became my nightly terror after the guests started to appear. The flicker usually began subtly, a faint wobble in the yellow glow. Then it would intensify, bulbs buzzing angrily, their light strobing wildly, casting grotesque, shifting shadows across the lobby. Each time, I would snap my eyes shut, pressing my palms against them, counting to 10, then 20. The urge to look up to see what was happening in the frantic, strobing light was almost unbearable. My eyelids felt transparent, as if the light could still penetrate. But I knew, deep down, that whatever was revealed in that chaotic illumination was not for mortal eyes. The terror was not just of sight, but of the knowledge of what I might see. One night, the flickering was particularly violent. I had counted to 60, and it hadn't stopped. Panic clawed at my throat. Do not count above 60. What then? Was that the limit? When the rule failed? When it could finally reveal itself? Just as I was about to open my eyes, resignation washing over me, the lights stabilized. The sudden, normal yellow glow was almost blinding. I gasped, opening my eyes to find the lobby unchanged. But the air was heavy with the metallic floral scent, and I could have sworn I heard a faint, wet sigh just beside my ear. It felt like something had been very close, examining me while I was vulnerable, assessing its options. The nights twisted into a waking nightmare, each a new descent. I became intimately familiar with the inn's rhythms of dread, the precise timings of the terror. The initial shock had curdled into a cold, persistent fear, a shadow that clung to my every breath. I lived by the binder, each page a fresh pronouncement of doom, each rule a flimsy barrier between me and the unimaginable. I understood then that Mr. Abernathy hadn't hired a security guard. He'd hired a designated survivor, or perhaps a sacrifice. The remaining rules were far more insidious, far more personal. Rule 6. If you hear singing or crying from room 13, slide a wrapped piece of rock candy under the door. Never knock, never wait for a reply. Room 13. I didn't even know where it was exactly, within the sealed guest wings. But I bought the rock candy, cheap, rainbow-colored chunks, and kept them in a bowl beside the ledger. One night, a high, reedy wail, like a child lost in a vast, cold hall, echoed faintly through the building. It was followed by a distorted lullaby, sung in a voice both young and ancient. The melody was haunting, unsettling. I fumbled for candy, hands slick with sweat, and shoved it under the north wing door, feeling the profound chill of the corridor. The sounds ceased. Just like that. The silence felt heavy, expectant. What was in room 13 that wanted rock candy? What if it didn't get it? The question clawed at my throat, a constant, gnawing fear. Rule 7. If the dust in the lobby moves against a draft, do not breathe it in. Hold your breath until it settles. Do not exhale until it is completely still. This rule came into play during the odd, still hours of early morning, usually around 4 a.m. The air, already thick with metallic scent, would suddenly feel alive, charged. Dust motes, omnipresent in the dim light, would begin to swirl, not gently, but in agitated eddies as if stirred by an unseen hand. No breeze, no open window, just frantic dust, forming fleeting, grotesque shapes. I'd hold my breath until my lungs burned, eyes stinging, convinced that whatever moved, the dust was trying to enter me, to possess the very air I needed to survive. The terror of suffocating myself just to avoid an unseen entity, a special kind of hell, a profound, claustrophobic dread. Rule 8. If a new name appears in the visitor's book between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., do not look for the room key. Do not acknowledge the name. Do not even look at the room number, the ledger. the enormous book on the counter filled with ancient, faded names. Every night after 4 a.m., I'd force myself to look. Sometimes a new entry, a name written in crisp, unsettlingly fresh black ink alongside a room number. The handwriting was perfect, inhumanly precise, as if pressed by a cold, unwavering hand. My eyes tried to dart to the room number to see where it was staying, to identify the new resident, but I forced myself back, focusing on the names already faded by time. These new guests were different from Rule 4's shuffling figures. These were active, registering their presence, mocking my confinement. A test of willpower, a psychological battle, a constant reminder of things moving, existing beyond my comprehension, in rooms I could not enter. Rule 9. If the bell at the front desk rings exactly 3 times, do not answer it. If it rings more than 3 times, answer it immediately, but state only, room service is suspended. The little brass bell, it sat next to the phone, usually silent. Some nights, it would ring. One night, ding, 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 3 precise rings. I froze, hand hovering, fighting instinct. It rang a 4th time. Ding! I snatched up the phone, voice a dry croak. Room service is suspended. Silence. Then, a faint sighing sound on the line, like a breath drawn in, deep and satisfied. I had passed another test, narrowly avoiding a fate worse than silence. What if I'd answered on 3 rings? Or hadn't answered on 4? I didn't want to know. The implication alone made my blood run cold. Rule 10. If you ever find a note with your name on it, slipped under the lobby door from the outside, ignore it. Burn it immediately. If you read it, you're next. This was the final rule. It sealed my fate. The night after the 4 rings, the air was cold, metallic smell overpowering, burning my nostrils. Just after 6 a.m., as first gray light painted the sky outside the grimy windows, I saw it. A sliver of white paper, barely visible, slid under the main front door. My heart stopped, thin, transparent. And on it, in that same unnervingly perfect black ink from the ledger, was my name, my full name. The letters seemed to glow with faint, malevolent light, drawing me in. Every fiber of my being screamed to pick it up, to read it. Curiosity, that insidious human flaw, warred with absolute, gut-wrenching terror. But I remembered Rule 10. Burn it immediately. If you read it, you're next. I scrambled for my old Zippo lighter, hands shaking so violently I nearly dropped it. I managed to flick it open, the flame a pathetic flicker in the vast, cold lobby. I knelt, eyes fixed on the paper, resisting the urge to even glance at the text. I carefully, meticulously, maneuvered the small flame until it touched the edge of the paper. It caught instantly, curling inwards, the black ink dissolving into ash. The smell of burning paper mixed with something else, something cloying and sweet, like burning hair. As the last corner turned to ash, I felt it, a profound cold, a deep, silent sigh that emanated from everywhere and nowhere. It was a presence, disappointed, frustrated, an ancient, unseen force expressing its displeasure. I burned the note. I survived that night, and every night since. But something changed. That sigh, that disappointment. It lingers. It's always there, at the edge of my hearing, at the corner of my vision. I can't leave. The inn, it doesn't let you leave. Not once you've learned the rules. Not once you've been marked. I tried once, after my shift ended. I got in my car, drove for miles, but every road, every sign, every distorted reflection in the windows of passing buildings, it all led back to the Midnight Inn. to those silent, knowing doors, to the dusty lobby and the waiting phone. I'm telling you this because you need to know some jobs aren't worth it. Some places aren't just places. They are entities. They have their own rules, and they want you to learn them, not to protect you, but to ensnare you, to make you a part of their horrifying dance. If you've ever felt that chill, that whisper, that sense of being watched when no one is there, listen to it. Heed it. Don't do what I did. Don't ignore your gut. Have you ever felt a presence that shouldn't be there? Have you ever heard a sound that defies explanation? Or seen something that you know, deep down, wasn't just your imagination playing tricks? Tell me in the comments. Maybe, just maybe, if we share our stories, we can understand this pervasive darkness a little better. We are not alone in our fear. Stay safe out there. Be vigilant. Because the rules, they might already be forming around you in places you never expected. And once they start, they rarely ever stop.